Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, I got some good news and I got some bad news. The bad news is I'd probably grade out USC's performance as and probably a C minus. The good news is you won 59-20. And there are a lot of other teams that are playing C minus football. They're losing games early in the year. It's not what you're talking about with USC. And here's the thing I'll say. One, buying stock in terms of what Jayden can do in 2025. This kid looks like a different quarterback. We'll dive into that a little bit more. The USC defense. Look, I'm on the message boards with y'all. I'm on Twitter with y'all. I see the concerns a lot of USC fans have, and I'm right there with you. Like, I don't think that was a good performance from this USC defense. There is one very important nuance to the conversation. Last year when USC's defense struggled, those weren't correctable mistakes. You just didn't have enough good football players, and you couldn't snap your fingers and get new players in the middle of the year. Like, what you have in 2025 is these are correctable things. We're blowing some coverages. We're not fitting the run the right way. I am firmly confident that this defense has the talent to be just fine in 2025, if not a pretty dang good unit. You just got to figure it out. And I think you got a couple of more games before you go on the road to play Illinois to figure out some of those mistakes. And I'll say this, especially with the secondary, you're just rotating so many guys. And I think that's on purpose. Like, hey, we got to figure out who our best players are. So we're going to put a lot of different players on the field. Yeah, the communication and chemistry with a bunch of new faces every single series, I can see why it's a little bit sloppy. I think the goal here now is you got 2 games of film, figure out who your best guys are, get them on the football field and playing a lot of football together. Let's stop blowing as many coverages as we're doing. Dill, I want to start with the offense, though, before we do, and as always, to the USC fans, let it rip in the comment section. If you want to give my brother a little bit of junk in the comment section, I'm for it. Because Dill was kind of he questioned what Jayden in this USC offense can be. And Dill, I think Jayden looks – and again, am I overreacting a little bit to Missouri State and Georgia Southern? Maybe. But I'm going to take the wins where I can get them because I do think this quarterback looks a little bit different. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I'm going to give you the T-Box here. 2 games of film from Jayden to start 2025. How are we feeling about him and how are we feeling about this USC offense?
And I think the big thing, and I probably said it before, is that you just know who the playmakers are. You know who needs to get fed, and that starts with Maiava Lemon. Jacoby Lane, obviously, will make his highlight plays, and he'll be really productive as he's been the past couple of games. But Maiava Lemon needs to have the ball in his hands constantly because he's so good after the catch. He's always open. He's so dependable. I feel like last year it felt like they didn't really establish him as that guy.
Yeah.
This year they have, and it has made a world of difference for Jayden.
I have a question, Dill, and this is, again, premature conversation, but I want to ask you anyways. Outside of Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, how many wide receivers are we taking over Maiava Lemon right now? Because the answer is not many, if any. What we're seeing from Maiava Lemon, and really what we saw in the back half of 2024 too, he's like a cheat code, man. Like the dude's feel for the position, his ability to separate, his ability to be dynamic after the catch, it's just a little bit different. I think he's going to be a first-round NFL draft pick going forward. Dill, Jayden, I want to talk about him. Here's the biggest difference that I'm noticing with this kid in 2025 versus what we saw in 2024. We ain't trying to do too much. He had that one throw where I think he went across his body, probably threw it into a little bit more traffic. Dill, that's one time in 2 games that we've seen that from Jayden. We'd see that like once every drive at the back half of 2024. He is doing a phenomenal job playing within the offense, saying, hey, I know I got a couple of difference makers on the outside. I got one of the best offensive play callers in the world running this offense. I don't have to be Superman. I just got to play within the offense. But when it's time to get outside the pocket, there's a little bit more of a calmness about it where, hey, I'm going to get outside the pocket, create a little bit more time, keep my eyes downfield, find an open receiver. His command of this offense and how much control he's playing with, I know it's against lesser opponents, and I'm interested to see what it looks like when he starts playing some really good defenses in the Big Ten. He feels like a different kind of quarterback than what we saw in the back half.
And a lot less floating backwards. That always felt like a problem last year where everything was going back. Like when he breaks the pocket, he doesn't roll back the other way or keep drifting
Mhm.
back towards the sideline. Like he is getting towards the line of scrimmage a little bit
Yep.
more, and that just inherently helped. That's like how you need to play that style of game. And I think the big yes, he's getting the ball out of his hands a lot quicker, and that's
Yes.
probably where it really starts. But you're right, when things break down, he is not breaking them down in a way that is destructive. Like he's making some
Yes.
plays or he's throwing the ball away. He's not letting things like kind of spiral
Snowball.
and get
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, and I think there's a better feel. Like, I got really good players around me. So if I just get to football to Mekhi Lemon, even though it's not a super flashy throw, Mekhi Lemon can go make it look pretty damn flashy. And then I can have 412 passing yards out of the game. Really, really been impressed with him. And I think that his management of the pocket, I think that's a great call. Because there was a lot of like not only drifting backwards, like it was legitimately like I'm gonna run backwards to avoid pressure, which is a problem. You're not seeing it all that much. And Dill, I think that's a nice segue to the offensive line. Really funky one. Alani Noah not getting the start after what I thought was probably his best performance as a USC Trojan week 1 against Missouri State. Lincoln Riley was asked about that. He said that was a between the walls decision, was the way I think he phrased it. I'm guessing that was some sort of disciplinary thing, right? I would be surprised if we don't see Alani Noah playing against Purdue next weekend. Thought Micah looked solid. Diller, what's your concern level with Justin T at right tackle? Because to me, we're still trying to figure it out. You're hoping he can come along. How are you feeling about what you're seeing from Justin T
And
protecting the
that's
right
where
corner?
it gets like kind of interesting what they're gonna do. Because my issue is I still feel like he deals with power pretty poorly, and that's where like he probably hasn't had to deal with pass rushers who can really test him in that
Mm-hmm.
realm. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say yet. So that's where like you're kind of looking ahead. Michael Benuelos has played good enough to be a starter at the Big Ten level. Like I don't think he was dominant. I think he was
Sure.
probably better in the run than he was in the pass. But I look, if Tobias Raymond was as good as they said he was coming out of camp at that tackle spot, I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation of how they deal with Justin T or Micah,
Yep.
because it's
Sure.
one of those two are going to play, assuming Lonnie Noah things kind of are what I think we
Here's what I'll say. Yeah, I would be stunned if Alani Noah is not. You're stunned unless he did something. He was playing, all right. He came in with the second team, so it's not like I don't think it doesn't sound like it was a huge deal. Whatever might have happened during the week. I'll say this: I'd rather make sure my right tackle is at his best than my guard. We'll see. And here's the other thing, though. I don't think it's unfair to say Justin T probably has the higher ceiling. Like, if this kid puts it all together, the way he moves, how athletic he is, I do think he eventually can be a good right tackle. Can he
Well,
become good
honestly,
enough?
he had a really good game today. I thought he was really good in the run. He was moving guys around a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just I'm looking back, like you go back to the A&M film, you go back to some
Yeah.
like what I would
Yes.
call good power rushes he faced in the last couple
Yeah.
of games. He gets knocked off balance probably too easily, and that play strength, you still wonder is it there
So
to be
if
top?
I were to, I agree. Sorry to cut you off there. If I were to make an argument, one of the things I'd say is I do think we're seeing him get better. Like his game against Missouri State was better than what you saw against Texas A&M. I thought his game against Georgia Southern was better than what you saw against Missouri State, which is makes me feel good about what he can be as we get into the month of October. And that's the goal for USC is like, how can we become the best version of this team possible when it's time to play the best teams on our schedule? You still got some time to figure that out. I think Purdue, like getting up to, and I know Purdue ain't a great team, but getting some more Big Ten caliber bodies will get a better feel. Last thing, I got two more things on offense, and we're spending more time on offense than I'd like, but had 755 total yards, so we got to talk about it. Wayman Jordan is everything and more than what the USC fans wanted. Like we heard the buzz, man. Like we heard the buzz starting in spring. We heard the buzz in fall camp. We just weren't really sure coming from the JUCO ranks. His first 10 yards, man, his ability to punch it and accelerate, it's a little bit different. Runs extremely physically, can make people miss at the second level. I don't know if he's a straight line burner, but he has that long speed to go hurt you if you take a bad angle on him. Unbelievably, especially after that fumble early, unbelievably impressed from what we saw from Wayman Jordan. Wide receiver 3. I know the USC fans are continuing to talk about that as well. Here's my thing is I think you got capable guys, right? nobody's really emerged. Is that a problem? Dill, to me, I don't know if it is, right? Because most of the targets are probably going to Micaiah and Jacoby Lane. I think you're seeing some nice things from the USC tight ends too. I think you got more than enough high caliber guys on the outside to be explosive in the passing attack. Is that a fair statement to make here?
Yeah, well, and especially because you have that duo, like a real power duo, I'd say, with obviously Jacoby Lane and Makai Lemon. So I do kind of want to see them. I like Tanuk Hines, honestly. He's kind of the guy I want to work in there more.
I
I
think so too.
I just like the explosiveness. I like what he's been able to do on some of those screens he's caught. And like that to me, I think you can create a lot of space with Jacoby Lane and Makai Lemon. I think a guy who can work well after the catch is kind of
Yep.
that'd probably be what I'd be leaning for in my primary wide receiver three. And again, like
Yep.
they'll be mixing and matching personnel. Like they have enough guys in that
Yep.
room to do different things. But Tanuk Hines, I've been really impressed with what he's done.
He's also the guy that, again, talking about that ceiling, but he probably does have the highest ceiling out of that group of wide receivers, especially with the game breaking speed. All right, the main event, the USC defense. And to the USC fans, I apologize that it's minute 12, minute 11, and we're just getting to it. Sloppy is probably the first word you'd use. I do want to say one thing, and this is really important. Like, we will get to the bad. We will get to the things that got to get cleaned up. USC last year, though, in 13 games, they had 21 total sacks. It was one of the worst in the country. Through two, they already have 9. The pass rush that USC is trotting out there, it's extremely disruptive. It's legit. I'm looking at, obviously, probably a headline with Cam Fountain. And then you look at Anthony Lucas, who that might have been his best game as a USC, but best game of his college career was probably last night against Georgia Southern. Then I'm looking at G-Day on the inside. I'm looking at Tompkins on the inside. I'm looking at Braylon Shelby. Those are all NFL dudes. This pass rush is on a whole nother level than what we saw in 2024. That matters. That arguably might be the most important aspect of a defense is your ability to overwhelm a team in pass protection. I think USC is trending towards that ability going forward in 2025. Looks like a brand new unit in terms of getting after the passer.
And that's where I'm kind of interested to see what type of role they carve out for like a Keyshawn Silver because I actually thought he played really well. I do like that they put a lot of athleticism on that defensive line.
Yeah.
It definitely does at times. Like you play with fire a little bit because they do give up some creases in the run game. They have given up some explosive runs. I know you think a lot of it is on the linebackers, and that's probably true. But it's not always made easy when you have a bunch of athletes who are trying to get in gaps because you just inherently create creases. I thought Keyshawn Silver had some good moments of just being able to like plug things up a little bit and like playing a little bit more aggressive than I felt like he played at Kentucky, where he was off the ball a little quicker, getting into guys, playing with a little bit more juice. So I'm interested to see how much kind of burn he gets for this USC team.
Yeah, I think you can manage that defensive line. Like last year, you just forced to play the guys that had a beating pulse and were healthy. Like we didn't have guys, we didn't have the luxury of mixing and matching. I think this year it might just look a little bit different depending on the team you play, right? You playing a team like Illinois in a couple of weeks on the road. You know what Illinois probably wants to do. Maybe you'll lean into some bigger bodies that can stop the run when you're playing teams that want to chuck the ball around the yard. Maybe you'll lean into some more pass rush ability. You have that versatility, that ability to do that when you didn't have it last year. The gas plays, which really is frustrating USC fans, and I'm not going to defend it. Like you have to clean that up, right? Georgia Southern should not be having the chunk plays that they had last night. I do think the mentality of this defense is a little bit shifted. I think there's a little bit more aggression. I think there's a little bit more emphasis on penetration, creating explosive plays, creating turnovers. I kind of like it a little bit. Like you want to walk that line where we're not so aggressive that we're giving up chunk plays consistently. But I do think both against Missouri State and Georgia Southern, there's a little bit more emphasis of, hey, we think we have a defensive line, a front seven that really can create negative plays and change games. We're going to be a little bit more aggressive. And if that means we give up a 12-yard carry or a 15-yard carry a little bit more frequently, you kind of live with it. But those negative plays, those drive-killing plays, I think USC's trying to find a little bit more of that in 2025. And I'll say this, I'm a fan. But you just got to walk that line better because you don't want to be giving up the chunk plays that USC gave up against Georgia Southern last night.
And I'm okay to play that way, especially because they are tackling better in the back end. Like, you can trust Kamari Ramsey
Yeah,
and Bishop
yeah.
Fitzgerald to make tackles in the back end where, again, like, they'll give up some big plays. As long as you're not giving up a zillion touchdowns, I think you can live with it, especially if you're able to create the amount of negative plays that USC has
Which
been
they're
able to create
doing.
the past couple of weeks.
Desmond Stevens is still a work in progress. I think is probably the fairest thing to say. Wouldn't be opposed to seeing a little bit more Jayden Walker in some meaningful
Really well.
minutes, man. Wouldn't be opposed to it, right? I know Desmond Stevens won that linebacker job coming out of fall camp, and I'm not ready to sell my stock on Desmond Stevens either, but he's still working through. Why not give a couple of drives to Jayden Walker? Because this kid's flying around and hitting everything with pulse, and I love that. Like I am intrigued with what we've seen from Jayden Walker. Hope to see more of him in the future. Dill, I think I know the best cornerbacks on this team is probably where I'll pause this one. Is it not Conley and is it not DeCarlos? I think that's pretty clear. And again, that USC is trying to figure that type of stuff out, and they're trying to figure out what that secondary is going to look like. And I think these first two games were meant to, hey, who are our best players? Who are the guys that are going to be playing a lot when we get into the Big Ten schedule? I think he kind of figured it out during the first two games. And here's where I'll pause this, and which should make USC fans maybe a little bit more optimistic. Is that okay? Now you have your guys, they can rep with them a little bit more in practice. And there's a little bit more chemistry and continuity with that unit. Because when you're trying out so many different guys in the back end, I'm not surprised that the coverage is breaking down at times. But once you know who your guys are, they get to get a lot of reps together in practice and in games. Ideally, that figures itself out. And Dale, you were dead on with DeCarlos. I don't think he had a great year coming from Mississippi State last year. He's looking the part early for USC in 2025. So I'll tip my cap to you on DeCarlos. We'll close it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. To the USC fans, I hope that was a nice balance between, like, I don't want to get up here and sunshine pump because there's a lot of things to clean up. You also won by a quick math here, 39 points. There's a lot of teams taking losses right now. Appreciate you guys, and we're going to talk to y'all later.